Oh, okay, we're ready to go then. So this is Dandara. If you've never heard of this game before, it's a Metroidvania. It's not a Metroidvania that you normally would hear about, or rather what you normally would think about when you see a Metroidvania. Usually you expect platforming. This game uses a completely different form of platforming. And I guess that's all the introduction I need to give before I start. So I'm Polecats, and I'm joined today by... I'm doing pretty good. How are you today? I think you're tired too, right? It's a beautiful early morning here. So anyways, let's get this run started in 3, 2, 1. Thanks. So this kind of like beginning tutorial room's actually like one of the harder rooms in the game just to do optimized and properly. I also can't aim apparently. But luckily, outside of that tutorial room, I kind of have a little bit to talk about exactly how we're going to be moving about this game. One thing you may notice is that I have the green cursor that shows up. There's also a white one. The white one is where I'm suggesting the game to go. The green one is where I'll actually go when I press A. And so you kind of see that I can naturally move about the game pretty quickly like this. I do need to like actually make an input every time I want to jump. And this is our first enemy here, the bees. Bees are really simple. They just kind of follow you pretty slowly. Occasionally they'll lunge. And they're not really a problem when you're going fast. Occasionally, in this room they are in the way, and I didn't quite get the jumps. That's all right. The other really important mechanic that we'll be using outside of obviously the movement is going to be death warping. Death warping is used a lot in this game. There's many different ways to death warp, but the most prominent one is menu death warping, which is just opening up the menu and then just hitting return to camp. And this does count as a death to the game. It takes away all of our currency that we collected. And what we collected first there was actually the Arrow of Freedom, which improves the kind of basic charge attack. You may have saw it in the first room. We don't use it too much throughout the run, but getting it upgrade saves a lot of time on every boss. For example, it takes like 50 seconds to grab it. We're going to save 15 seconds on the first boss from it, and we're going to be saving time throughout the run from it. Ooh, that's bad jumps. One of the nice things about this early section is that it's pretty safe. So there are things can go wrong, but they aren't going to cost too much time. I won't be able to say the same thing about the later sections of the game. This is one of the first safety items we're going to be getting for late game. This is the potion, or essence of salt as the game likes to call it. One thing that's about this game that I guess is kind of fun to talk about trivia-wise is that everything in this game is salt. The floor is salt, the walls are salt, the potions are salt, everything is salt, your upgrades are salt, your currency is salt. This lady's not salt. So in this beginning area, we kind of have a couple very simple objectives, and that is to activate these panels. There's another panel there that's not activated yet, and that's kind of what we're going to need to go out of our way to go do. And really, a lot of this early game is just kind of like doing one individual thing before we're having to go on to the next one. And then after that, it becomes a lot more open-ended. Another important thing about using camps is that it sets where our respawn point is when we die. Even though we can get upgrades, and oh my goodness, this is bad movement. So yeah, respawn points are pretty important throughout the run, and it's actually imperative knowing when you can camp and when you cannot camp. So we're going to come up on the first mini-boss here. The first mini boss is the tank. I don't have much else to say about him. He's really straightforward. We're pretty much just going to sit in one spot, and he's not going to be able to hit us. If he does hit us, that'd be very embarrassing. I don't think I've ever died to tank, and even in a no reset run. Yeah, okay.
Pretty scary boss.
Yeah, he's terrifying. Like, I was practicing that one. That's clearly what all my practice time was for.
I think we need a clap for tank boss.
He's beautiful. So that activates the purple panels, and you would think, okay, so you activated all the panels, now you're ready to go to the first boss. Unfortunately, the answer to that is no. We also need to get the first special in the game, and I'll talk a little bit more about specials when we do get our first one. But for now, we need to get back to the camp, and we're going to die in a rather specific way. Even though I had menu death warped earlier, I'm going to just die on an enemy there instead, and why that is will become obvious later, provided I just don't die again. Which, I'm sure it's fine. It'll be fine. It's fine, right?
This is fine.
Yeah, that's
Everything
fine.
is fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
So this game kind of has a bit of history. It was inspired by Dandara, who's like this Brazilian warrior.
Yeah, I actually don't know too much about like the actual history behind it. I do understand that the dev team, heard about her and they decided to make her like the main character and inspire a lot of this game around her. Another thing that this game's also really heavily inspired around is the developers of this game. They're from Brazil, so this like opening area is kind of like on the streets of Brazil. So it really gives it its own unique look.
Yeah, it's super cool. I'm a big fan of it.
I'll get through that door one day. That will happen sometimes, one thing that's important to note about the corrected angles, because, oftentimes I have that white angle and there will be the corrected green angle. You understand certain, aspects about it. It really likes to stay locked onto a certain point if you don't have another jump that you could make. And another thing is that it likes to target doors a lot. So I oftentimes will rely on it targeting a door from time to time. This room's pretty difficult. I hope I get it right. A little slow, but we'll take that.
Easy every time.
This isn't a terrible pace right now. It's not a great one either. So yeah, this is our first special of the game. What we also regain from this is also the special meter. You'll see it in the top left. That's a little yellow bar. Every special that we have costs meter. The nice thing about the Johnny B missile that we just got, it costs only 1/5 a bar a meter. All the other ones at least cost 1/2. So whenever we just want to use a quick special, because we can use specials instantly, unlike our regular attack, which we have to charge up. That's a bad jump. Unlike our regular attack, which we have to charge up, we can use those instantaneously, which is a pretty useful aspect in some places. Unfortunately, because this is any percent, we will not have nearly as many resources to have the meter to use it as much as we want. So it's a little bit unfortunate in that regard, but we'll still find a place or two to use it. So another thing I guess that's quickly worth mentioning was that camp we rested at. That camp really isn't needed if, in all technicality. We only need it to get another 1/5 a bar meter because we have 6 walls we need to destroy. And, well, when we get back to that camp, we took out 3 of them. We only don't have 2 shots left. So it's kind of like routed out in such a way that, we don't have to return too much. This is the first boss. I didn't get to talk a little bit too much about it before we started. So
I think this boss kind of shows how they're using the historical kind of elements, because Dandara kind of developed she was defending Brazil from colonization. And this guy was really kind of like a military commander.
So unfortunately, I did miss the 1 cycle there. If you hit the fists enough at the start of the fight, you get to skip the first phase. it's about a 15-second time lapse when you miss it. So for me nowadays, like missing that is like basically a reset. But luckily, there are much worse things that can happen in a marathon. Mash text. So we only have to mash text a few times in this game, which is nice. Unfortunately, these text boxes on this NPC are particularly slow.
Who is Lazuli? Why are we talking to her?
I don't know. She just gives us an item that we need to go farther in the game. There's a lot of things I'm just like, yeah, there's probably some deep meaning in this game, but it's fun, and I like to play it, so I'm going to keep doing that. So the item we just got there is the Stone of Creation. It's used for jumping farther, but you can only use it with these green platforms here. And that should give you a quick idea of what we're going to use it for. A lot of the movement items in this game actually require you to be near something else in order to make full use of them. And so in some regards, it's a little unfortunate, you know, that we don't get like free reign use of them, but it's still, you know, required to get us through the game. So only so much complaining I can do about it. There we go. So that was the death we had earlier, and luckily because we didn't die, we were able to collect our salt. Salt routing in this game is kind of particular in certain ways. We know like where to get some quick salt is, and we kind of want to keep as much of that easy salt as we can. That way we don't have to like go out of our way to get other chests, and we can properly skip the second boss of the game. That's basically what the salt routing is for, is to make sure that we don't have to fight the second boss. Now, provided I don't take a certain death later on you know, accident, we hopefully will not see that boss, but... Actually, that boss is the entire reason that this estimate is so long.
Gotta love those kind of boss fights.
I mean, it's mainly because like we need to, if we died, we have to go back, grab an item, and that's like an 8-minute death, I think, is what that's like. Another thing that's interesting about routing in this game is that all the door transitions take about 3, 4, 5 seconds, somewhere in that area. So when you go through like a wrong door or a door you don't need to, you actually lose quite a bit of time from that every time it happens. So that's another thing that's about routing this game, is like seeing how few rooms we can go through while clearing it, because the more rooms we go through, obviously the more time we incur for doing so as well. It's another important thing to take in consideration for salt routing, is how many doors you need to go through.
Yeah, that's a common thing in Metrodanias in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on the second section here. This is going to be the Desert Library. For most people that play this game, you know, like when I watch them like play casually, they go like maybe like the middle route or like the bottom route. The bottom route is absolutely worthless to go, and chances are you're going to get bodied by like a laser that does like 4 damage. It's really nasty. And the middle route gives us a really good defensive item, but we don't really need it for the... Ooh, that's not good damage. And we don't really need it for the run, so we don't pick it up. I'll probably have to go slow in this room because of that damage I took. Unfortunate, but, you know, so that just goes.
Happens.
Happens, yeah. Oh.
It's cool you get an in-game timer right over there, too.
Yeah, that's actually one thing I forgot to mention. Thank you for bringing that up. So one thing that this game, or the leaderboards for this game, are actually used by the in-game timer. And it's pretty useful for making sure, you know, no one's cheating or anything of that sort as well. And normally the in-game timer is pretty close, like it's about 30 seconds off what a real-time run is going to be. But it does have some interesting side effects of running on the in-game time. One of the more interesting side effects is some rooms are faster to quit out of than to like actually play them, because they'll have like cutscenes or other stuff that just makes them take really long to get back to the door you need to return to. And I might do that just to show it off, because it's kind of a really cheesy time save for in-game time versus real time. We're coming up on one of the first skips in this any percent. and that is early desert. There is a skip even earlier in desert that we could do, but the problem with it is that it costs 2 hearts of health to do, and I need to do this whole section on about, well, 7 hearts. The whole aspect of early desert is just trying to get through this hole here in kind of unintended ways. Yeah, first try, cool.
Nice.
That one's not too hard. We do have a couple other skips coming on later. One in particular known as Fake Town Skip that's much more difficult. Hopefully we get that one within like 3 tries. That's unfortunate. So the entire section of Desert Library, I hadn't really mentioned the items we're grabbing here. But the first item is the, I believe it's called like, I don't know, it's the Rock of Remembrance, that's what it's called. It's a required item to progress, but we actually wouldn't need it if we could get the second item without that item. And the reason for this is because the second item allows us to start doing damage boosting, which we do use later in the run. But unfortunately, damage boosting is not very useful, or we just can't do it to get to that, you know, the item that allows us a damage boost. So it's kind of like in a funny spot. There's definitely a lot of things that we could like improve in terms of how fast the game goes by getting to that second item sooner. I'm gonna go slow through this room, just because I've been bodied a lot of times before.
I love the music in this game a lot.
It's pretty chill, yeah. Although, admittedly, like, you know, when you're having like a really good run, like the chill music goes like to really like tense music by the end of it, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah, I know your feel.
So after our little elevator ride, we're gonna have the second mini boss. Unlike Tank, this one's not nearly as free. We're gonna try to 2-cycle it by shooting some missiles at a long range. That's another thing about missiles I didn't mention, was that they have unlimited range unlike our normal attack. That should be good enough for 2-cycle. Yep.
Nice.
So yeah, this is the first item. If there was a way to skip this item, it would actually save a huge amount of time, because we need to grab this item and then go hightail it all the way back to grab the second item here.
I hope there's no scary skeletons here.
Yeah, there's one. I should have done the main menu cheese there, because that actually does save about like 2 seconds there, which is silly. 2 seconds of in-game time, not real time. So once again, another long elevator ride in the tower, and the effect that this item we picked up has, it activates a lot of the traps and platforms around here. So we can get to new areas, but it also means that there are things that can kill us on the way. One of the more infamous ones in the early patches of this game were the crushers right outside this room. They made them really, really fast in the original like patches of this game. Like, you had like maybe like less than half a second to make that jump there, and now it's like way faster than what it used to be. So I'm in a pretty good health position here, actually, and I'm pretty happy about that, because it's a little bit like scary in this situation to have not a lot of resources to work with. The reason for this is because this here is the 8-minute death if it happens. Between grabbing that first item and the second item, it's just a huge, huge time loss if it happens. So as you can see, those kind of like, I don't know what you want to call those, like merry-go-rounds or whatever. Those, you know, have activated now due to the having the Rock Remembrance. These like sand things, I don't even know. A lot of the enemies in this game are kind of crazy looking. Just like these squids with like German helmets on. I don't know. There's a lot of crazy enemies in this game. But yeah, we're just about done with this section. So luckily, the scariest thing that could happen in this run has not happened today.
You already scared me once. How can there be any more scary stuff going on?
Oh, maybe there's another skull, man.
Stop
Like,
scaring
look,
me.
there's a skull on this chest.
No! Ah! You gotta stop scaring me, polecat.
My bad. My bad. So yeah, the entire reason I wasn't able to rest at any camps was so I could skip the arena that has the second boss in it, and as a result, we don't have to fight it. We can just skip that entirely. So now is some other smaller required things to do. We're going to fight another mini-boss. And this is going to give us the Stone of Intention, I think is the next item. And this lets us use the purple pads that are lying around. They will flip over when we are on them. We're also going to discover a camp on the way. I'm not going to talk too much about that now. I'll talk about it when we get the item because it's not too far away from now. But hopefully we don't get hit by this laser. That laser does 4 damage. And he's going to be chasing us for a few rooms.
So it's completely chill.
Yeah. He also screams at you, like, every room you're in. Like, he's just really, really upset.
He's just yelling, "Hey, what's up? How's it going?"
He just wants to hang out.
Yeah.
We'll hang out with him later.
I thought we were hanging out today.
We'll catch up with him after the run or something. So these are kind of the triangle people. They have a homing projectile, but it doesn't home that great. I'm not going to do quick spins here. Not today, because I don't have the right special out. I'll talk about quick spins in a second, because I will use them. So the second mini-boss is actually pretty terrifying, just because he can hit so hard. He also moves really fast. I'm going to concentrate for it, because I do use audio cues to know when he's swiping at me. Because watching him, for him to like swipe at you is just awful. Hello? Okay. So in older patches, that fight used to be free. He didn't move every time you hit him, but they decided that apparently that was too easy, so now he moves around all the time, and he can go into walls and make it hard to kill him.
What are some other things that changed in the last patch of this one?
So we're on 1.2.3, and between 1.2 or 1.15, something like that, there were some small content additions along with that menu death warp, but between 1.2 and 1.23, a big thing is just like all the bug fixes that happened.
Oh yeah.
Like there was a wrong warp in the game that hard locked your save file.
Wow.
And I was kind of hoping to show that off today, but the game patched on me while I wasn't looking. I was like, uh-oh, well, can't show that off anymore.
Oh dang.
It was pretty hilarious too, because you were like invincible, but your game never, like the save file never worked anymore. So we have one more camp to discover, and then we'll be going back across the bridge. So I'm pretty happy with how this is going so far. Nothing too major going wrong. But yeah, some other things that changed, they also added some enemies. Like between the patches, like they keep adding like new content in small doses. It's really interesting to kind of like change up your strats a little bit every time there's a new run. Especially now, because of menu death warping, we're able to use our energy a little more freely. We're able to use like the specials that we have. Whereas before, like we had to save all of our meter just to kill ourselves after every fight. And we also had to like plan out our HP to be low enough so that we kill ourselves quickly. Because it takes about half a second for every time you take damage in this game. So we have all the things we need. We're going to be performing the next 2 tricks after we get a little bit of salt and get our last 2 upgrades. Or at least our last 2 upgrades before getting to the final section of the game. And I'll talk a lot more about the final section of the game because it's super difficult and there's no way to skip it. So this room is actually the one that really caused this route to happen. Before, we fought the second boss kind of religiously because he gave us 2.7k salt for killing him, along with all the salt that came from the desert library section was like another like 2k. So it always gave us like enough salt. But thanks to that room, which has just 3k in it naturally, like a lot of the early salt routing combined with it, we were able to easily get to 9 hearts without too much problem. So let's see here. So this is bridge skip. I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's really straightforward. That is actually the one thing in the game I have never screwed up. Believe it or not, I actually have died to tank. As much as I like to believe I don't, I have died to him before.
Feels bad.
Feels bad, but
very bad.
But luckily, bridge skip has never failed me. It's very simple. We just take 4 hits. This is the reason that we need to get to 9 hearts. This room also helps quite a bit to have the extra health for, because this is going to be fake town skip, in which we're going to clip through this wall. The reason that this works is because we kind of like damage boost through the wall that's moving here. And this is actually the hardest trick of the game, so I'm going to concentrate for all these other attempts.
Yeah, this trick often takes a few times to get.
This is unfortunate. So there's a few reasons why this trick's kind of difficult. It's because we need to like the cloud to be heading in a certain direction while we're jumping at it. Oh goodness. This is terrible. Timing. I'm just not getting the timing for it. If my character model is still facing towards the left every time I get hit, I am not timing it properly. Oh goodness. There we go.
There we go.
That was a
nice.
clean clip. Kind of mad how long that took, but at least we got the clean clip. There's 2 types of clips you can get. You get one that gets you in the cloud. And getting inside the cloud is like, okay, great. And then you'll like clip back into the out of the cloud. And then you'll take another hit and die. And you'll be like, well, all right, guess I'll have to do it again.
It often takes just like minutes just because it's so hard to get.
Yeah,
right.
So it actually used to be easier in the old patch. That's another thing I have not mentioned. And the reason for that was because they tried to patch it out. And like, I performed it like the first day. And they were like, I thought we patched that out. I was like, oh, yeah, you patched it out. Good job. Don't try to patch it out again. Thank you.
Please leave this
one. Please leave this one.
It's cool.
The reason for this is because I talked about it. I said it was fake town skip, and fake town is actually the hardest section of the game without even thinking about it. The reason that fake town is so hard is because enemies, like, they move in such a way that's very hard for them to be consistent. And so it's kind of just random by the fact that the way things move around. So we're starting Golden Fortress here. Golden Fortress has like just a huge list of different sections to go through. This outside section's not too bad. It's got a lot of things that do like 1 or 2 damage, so it's not too threatening. But we are going to fight the turrets that were shooting at us earlier. If you remember that big laser guy, we're going to get to play with him now.
We finally get to hang out.
Yeah. This is exactly what he wanted.
What's up, laser?
No, this is eggs.
Oh.
Eggs are one of the more awkward projectiles in this game.
It's his twin brother.
See, I always thought one was a girl and one was a boy.
Yeah, I could see that.
Don't hit me, please. Oh, cool. I'm gonna go for cutscene skip here. Okay, we got it.
Nice.
Bye-bye.
Kaboom.
So this is the real sections of Golden Fortress. This is the first part of Golden Fortress. Not too bad as long as we can go through it quickly. Okay, we're not getting through it quickly. Oh, goodness. Pretend that didn't happen.
Happens.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
This is easily the hardest section of the game. It's just things can hit you everywhere. There's enemies all over the place. I actually haven't, like, when I submitted this game, I submitted 100% and any percent, and I knew that I could not do the same incentive for any percent that was in the Golden Fortress, because it's just so many things are happening here that taking any extra time that you don't need to is not a great idea here.
Yeah, just look at all of it.
It's just inviting death.
Yeah, the placements are just super.
Yeah, enemy placement in this game actually is something I really need to talk about because it's really, really good.
Yeah.
A lot of times I will play a game and I'll be like, enemy placement does not make any sense. In this game, it is put in such a way for you to get hit. Ooh, I did not get that jump.
The devs put a lot of time into thinking like how to place them and whatnot.
Hello? Okay. So we're going to take a death warp here. This is kind of like a twofold death warp. I'm going to leave my body behind, and hopefully I won't die on the next section, so I can pick it up later for more health. That's another thing you can do with your body is use it for health refills. So the whole reason we fought the turrets was to do this camp warp here that's closer. It saves a little bit of time. You could theoretically go through the entire Golden Fortress section without doing any death warps. But I have yet to see anyone do that, so.
Maybe someday.
Someday. Man, I don't know if I'll ever be good enough to do that.
It's wild.
It is. This area is wild, is the right word. Luckily, that room's a little easier to cheese than these other ones. I'm going to go for safe strats in this room.
This was the only room you had to hit those guys on the wheels, right?
Yeah, that is the one room. You can technically skip the first one, which is kind of the safety strat, is to go for that first one. Because you could just damage boost through that second laser. Most lasers we would damage boost through, but that second laser, the jump is too long for us to actually go into the laser and continue the run. It's a hard room.
You're making me sweat.
Hey man, those guys, they look like they work out. I get sweaty just looking at them.
First it was the tank guy, now it's this room.
Oh.
You got tank guy, you're scaring
So
me.
this is the third section of Golden Fortress, and it's not easy. The third section of Golden Fortress is easily the hardest section. Every room except the last room is incredibly difficult. The reason for this is a mixture of precise jumps and how much combat you can do. Okay, that was good. Okay, so these next two rooms are easily not this room, but the next two rooms after these ones are easily the most difficult rooms in the game. So we'll see if we can get through them. Navigating them is not easy. If you can do it, you're a very good player. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you just picked up this game. If you can do it, you're very good at this game if you can do that. Yeah, okay, hello. Alright, that's one down. Ooh, this is bad. Yeah. I saw that one coming. Usually when the first one swipes at you, it's a problem. Luckily, we got the wall broken, though, so it should be quick to get through that room quick again. Sadly, that is the last room of the third section, so it's always heartbreaking when that happens in, like, you know, when runs are going for PB attempts, because it's just like, you know that room's coming, and sometimes it just gets you.
The classic Metroidvania thing. Get hit by one enemy, the other comes to combo you, and you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And all those enemies in that room hit super hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Something I did not mention is that each section in Golden Fortress actually hits like progressively harder. Like the first section only hit for like 1 or 2 damage, whereas this third section there's a ton of things that hit for 3. These bird enemies hit for 3. Those guys lifting weights, they hit for 3. That's a bit slow, but that's okay.
Whenever you say hit for 3, I kind of think of golf, like par 3.
Par 3.
Yeah.
Hey man, they can par 3 me. I get to take 3 hits from them. I'm dead.
This was secretly a golf game the whole time.
In some ways, yeah, because you really need to like manage exactly what's hitting you at certain moments. This is not good. Ooh, this is real bad.
Oh, dang.
Can you? Oh, goodness. That's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. I lost all my salt now too.
Marathon luck.
Yeah, a little bit. That was one thing that is kind of like random in this game. Actually, most enemies are not very random, but one thing that is what way those enemies in red are facing when you get into the room. So yeah, unfortunately with that second death, this is definitely not going to be a sub 40. It's kind of like a dream goal to get during a marathon because it's not easy to do, but that's okay.
So those are just show off game of a good time.
Hello? Okay. One thing that's important about this bird every time you see him, or after the first time, is that he has a lot less health. Oh goodness, I'm just playing bad now. Yeah, I'm not. I guess this is going to be a pretty interesting final boss because I'm not going to have that much in terms of extra upgrades. Now let's just get to that point. Okay, goodbye. Goodbye.
Peacing out.
Yeah, peace out. Luckily, because we broke the wall in this room, it should not be a problem. Unless we manage to hit that guy's nose and it hurts us. Very hard room again. That's the room that was next. Like, it was right here. It was right here. Like, here's the lock we break. That's why that room is just such a crusher when it happens to you. It's just like, oh, so close.
I had to wipe my sweat off with the baguette.
That's a lot of baguettes over there.
There's a lot of baguettes. Would you like a good luck baguette?
Nah,
Okay.
I'm good. So this is the fourth section. There's a ton of enemies in the fourth section, but it's not actually as hard as the third section. There's a few reasons for that. Is because, one, if you go quickly, it's not too much of a problem usually. The other thing is that it's only 2 rooms. Yeah. That's all right. Okay, so this is the final camp. I don't even have enough salt for 1 upgrade, I think. It's unfortunate. I like to get that one. But yeah, we're going to be coming up on the final boss here. The final boss is not a pushover in any way, shape, or form. Another thing that changed between the previous patches and this patch is the final boss actually doesn't hit as hard, one, and he also doesn't move as quickly, which is the bigger thing. I actually lost like at least half my runs to the final boss before the patch happened. And the reason for that was because he'll crush you against a wall, and he has no problem doing it all the time. Like, he will put you in hit stun, you will be stuck, and you'd get crushed against the wall. So hopefully we don't get crushed against the wall today. Like I said, he's easier than what he used to be, so this shouldn't be too much of a problem on without the 4th potion. I'm usually used to having that, but we should be good without it.
Good luck.
Thank you. So the few attacks that the first boss has, the first one, he tries to crush you outright. He also chases you around the room. He has projectiles that kind of like fly everywhere. They're really annoying to keep track of. And the other thing is there's kind of like little mice running around the room as well. Those do like 3 damage. I try to avoid those as much as possible. Okay, that's a pretty good first phase.
Nice.
So second phase, he has so many different attacks, it's kind of hard to describe each of them. But the one we're looking for is the one where he sends out a bunch of mouse cursors, and the one we don't want to see eggs. Eggs just waste time. Luckily, that was a pretty good pattern for eggs. So once he gets below half health, a lot of his attacks get improved, even though he really has not used too many of his attacks here. But he also does send out extra masks every time you break the shield on him, like that. There's mouse cursors. They move around the screen pretty slowly. The best thing about those is that they take a really long time to move, so they're pretty easy to keep out of the way of. Oh, goodness. Fine. It's fine. Okay, so time is not on final hit. It's when the time pops up after the credits. And I mashed through those credits, so don't worry about that too much. Time.
Good run.
That was pretty good. I'll take a sub 42. It took me a while to get my first sub 42. This game is rough.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, everybody. All right, I guess I'd like to give a quick shout out to the Dandara community. There's really only like 3 runners of this game. There's 3 people that run 100%, including myself, and there's 2 people that run any percent. So shout outs to Augury for running both any percent and 100%. He's coming over to New Patch pretty recently, so I'm hoping he puts his time down as well. And then also Granox, who runs 100%. So yeah, big thanks to both those guys for being part of the community before I showed up, because I got in this game like 6 months ago, and like pretty much New Patch came out then, and that's what I've been running since. So yeah, big thanks to the few members that are in the community. Also thank you to Longhand House, which they're developers for this game. They're actually also in the community Discord. So if you ever like want to show up there and talk to Brant, who's the member that from the dev team that's there, he's pretty cool. He's pretty chill. We like showing him our glitches because he just goes, "How do you do that?" So yeah, big thank you for letting me show this off, and I'll see myself out.